So, for example, when you had the fairly recent Manchester bombing in 2017, there was some very interesting and open reporting in allegedly respectable newspapers about that family history for a couple of weeks following the bombing, and then it just dried up stone dead and didn't ever get picked up again until about 6 or 7 years later.
Until Eyup Lovely set up his Twitter.
I would imagine.
I was there. I was at the bombing.
Were you actually there? Is that?
Well, I was on the train. I was on the train above Manchester, Victoria. No, listen to me right now. The arena and the train station. You go to the arena. It's on top of the fucking train station. The train station's on top.
It's literally right.
My train was stopped there. Someone got on the train. One of the stops. It was stopped for hours. Someone got on the train and shouted, "He's got a gun!" And
fucking hell.
Everyone was quite startled, but it immediately became apparent that it wasn't anywhere near there and they didn't have a gun. I was on the train, and behind me there were two Scouse girls who had left early, and they were playing videos on the phone, and they had hypothesised that it was a speaker exploding, and they were talking about how much their tickets would be worth. Oh, you know, this will sell for so much.
I'm glad someone did well.
Were they wrong?
This is just like the Bushes with 9/11. They placed those bets beforehand.
Yeah. When I got off the train, there was all armed police everywhere. I got off at Liverpool as well. There was armed police in Manchester, but there was a lot in Liverpool. And it was just all these young girls in Dangerous Woman merchandise crying with all these armed police. It was a nasty circumstance to find myself peripherally engaged in, but with the Manchester bombing, it's kind of maddening because it's the one where you can draw a clear line between the activities of the British Army, of NATO, to that bomb, quite clearly.
It is as textbook blowback as you'll ever see, really.
Yeah, it's pretty much bang on exactly that. And nobody cares.
The family, his dad,
taught them how to make bombs against Gaddafi. As part of the British-led NATO effort in Libya.
Creating
then, of course, let them
to defeat our present enemies. It's just the story again and again.
Literally
and again.
Facilitated their travel there and back. And it's the same with Shamima Begum. She was facilitated by Canadian and British intelligence. That is also widely reported in the mainstream media. And nobody cares. They did an inquiry about the Manchester bombing and nobody cares. It's quite clear that MI6, MI5, I don't remember specifically if they engaged. I would be surprised if they did. But they had friends of the family testifying quite clearly of the involvement in the British-led NATO effort in Libya. And there's nothing will ever come of that. It's not like any political party leader has ever even spoken about. It's an interesting turning point in Britain, the Manchester bombing, because obviously in the 2017 campaign, the Manchester bombing happens, and against all advice, Corbyn gives a speech that quite explicitly links it to Western foreign policy.
Yep.
Yeah.
And against all advice, it polls incredibly well.
Yeah.
And probably has a decisive impact on the result. And that is the moment that they decided that Jeremy Corbyn had to die.
Yeah.
Can't be saying those things.
Day, really, because you had... as soon as he made that speech, or even like just before he made it, when the broad content of it was briefed out, as systematically happens, every fucking journalist, every like commenter, every accountant's like sensible politics views was like, oh, he's destroying everything, you know, he's going to take Labour 10% in the polls, you know, people already think the Tories are better on security, and here he is doing Britain down and all this, and they were just really like... It was probably one of the days Corbyn had got like the most criticism as a reaction to some news instead of him being the news. And
it couldn't be more out of tune with the public.
That poll came out like a few hours later, and it was just like, yeah, you know, all those, you know, the ridiculous ultra-far left that were the only people that could possibly like this speech. That's 63% of the country or whatever it was. And it was
majority of Conservative voters agreed with it.
But I find that we've given a couple of examples of like potential denotices and sort of British blowback, and like on that one, a lot of the British public, people that very much wouldn't be like where we are politically, were like, well, yeah, Britain does cause itself problems with like some of its foreign policy. Like,
of course,
that's actually quite.
You don't have to be a communist to think that we need to stop fucking messing about in these random corners of the world where we have no business being. Like Ukraine.
Exactly. That's a mainstream view, and there was this opportunity then to create a movement around this kind of popular anti-war sentiment that was not beholden to left or right necessarily, but the left at that moment could have capitalised on it, and that's when the attention shifted to Jeremy Corbyn's campaigning for peace, especially in Palestine, is what makes him evil and against our Western values. And a lot of people within the Labour Party much preferred this defence of Western Judeo-Christian values than trying to build a populist anti-war movement.